A chilling whodunit, almost too sinister to comprehend.
2 people dead, 2 in jail, 1 in the hospital.
How much bad luck can one family have?
A mother and daughter, both arraigned for murder.
Why didn't you call an ambulance or bring him to the hospital at that point?
Because by then I hated his guts.
Hated his guts.
Back in middle school, she would touch me. She wasn't going anywhere with her life.
Rise from the ashes of a broken life.
Today I want to talk about Diane Stouty and her entire family. Diane and her 2 daughters, Rachel and Sarah, basically took out their entire family, but then Diane and Rachel turned on Sarah. Recently, Diane did an interview, like super recently, where she basically had a whole new story to tell. Same thing with her daughter Rachel. She came out with a whole new story trying to recant what she said originally. And both of their stories sort of contradict Sarah's story. So there are a ton of conspiracy theories, so many ideas about who knew what, who did what. So I want to do what I usually do on my channel, which is I want to give you guys the facts, then we'll discuss the theories, and then you can decide for yourself. This video is sponsored by Native Deodorant. Do you guys remember the story I told you? I think it was in my Nature Boy video. I went to reach for something and I caught a whiff of myself and it was really bad. Well, it wasn't Native Deodorant. Actually, after that video, Native reached out to me and they sent me their deodorants. It is 100% plastic free, but it's the same exact formula that they've always had, and I've been trying it and wow, it dries really quickly. The smells are amazing. So I got the sensitive formula because I'm sensitive physically and emotionally. It's made without baking soda. This one is my favorite. The aloe and green tea. You wouldn't think that it's got a sweetness to it, but it does, and it's also fresh. Yes, I'm applying deodorant on camera, but what? You don't apply deodorant? You should. I'm sorry. It's paraben free, it's aluminum free, it's cruelty free, and it's stinky free. For fall, now they have something called the Cabin Collection with all these fall, autumn-like scents. 3 plastic-free deodorants would be $39. But if you use my code, Noor Jasmine, you can get them for only $26, which is over 33% off. With my code, you can also get 20% off any body wash or toothpaste. Thank you so much to Native for supporting my channel and sponsoring this video. Okay, back to the video. So the whole thing started on Easter Sunday. It was 2012, and this was in Springfield, Missouri. Diane Stouty, she comes home from church. Now she's big in the church. She's been playing the organ there for like 30 plus years, and it's Easter Sunday, so she comes home from church. Her husband, Mark, he's 61. He did not go with her, and he's dead. Mark was acting weird leading up to his death. He was slurring his words. He was stumbling a lot, sleeping a lot, throwing up. And the thing about Mark is that, according to members of his family, he drank a lot, he partied a lot. So when he was slurring, stumbling, vomiting, it wasn't the most unusual thing. After Diane calls 911, the cops arrive and they ask her, like, why didn't you take him to the hospital? Why didn't you call us sooner if he had symptoms leading up to this? And she's like, oh, he wouldn't let me. He would get very upset. He doesn't want me to call. And we thought it was just flu or he was drinking too much. We didn't think much of it. So based off what Diane was saying and his unhealthy lifestyle, the medical examiner ends up ruling his death as due to natural causes. But he does mention that there's a ring of blood around his lips. Now, the thing about Diane and the funeral is that everyone said that she didn't seem that upset.
She proceeded to tell me like she was giving me a recipe to a cake. No emotions, no nothing.
At first they were like, well, maybe she's just in shock. Everyone has their own way of grieving. But it was noticeable. So Mark had a life insurance policy. It was for $20,000, and Diane ends up using this money to get a new house in a nicer neighborhood.
Big difference.
It definitely is. It's a step up from where they were.
And it's bigger. They were all crammed in this small house, and they were 4 kids. The thing is, they struggled with money because Mark, he was in a band. He was 61. He was still trying to make this band, you know, make it big.
We had a good band. We were literally taking off.
Messing with Destiny is booking semi-regular gigs, joining the Aretha Franklin impersonators.
And he basically didn't contribute that much to the household. Everything was on Diane's shoulders. She was a nurse and she was the breadwinner, but then she also took care of their 4 kids at home. So she was doing the housework, taking care of the kids and making the money. So it was a lot for her. And so when they got this $20,000 and she could finally get a bigger house and take the pressure off a little bit, things seemed to be going well. Until they weren't. Diane ends up calling 911 again, and this time she says her 26-year-old son, Shaun, is dead. So Shaun has autism. Actually, there are several of Diane's kids who have learning disabilities or something, but Shaun is said to have had like the worst case of autism out of all of them, and he also was said to have a history of seizures. So the medical examiner ends up ruling that his seizure condition, you know, was the cause. He had a seizure and he somehow stopped breathing. But also, he also had a ring of blood around his mouth. But still, his death was ruled as due to natural causes. So remember I told you Diane, she's really active in her church. And so everyone at the church is like, oh my God, this is awful. First, her husband dies, and it was less than 6 months. It was only 5 months after her husband died that her son, Shaun, died. And they're like, oh my God, this poor woman, she has awful luck. Well, the good thing is that Shaun also had a life insurance policy, and it really didn't seem like Diane was upset about his death either.
She said, oh yeah, my son died. She said it to me just like that. She said, my son died, very matter-of-factly.
And then there was also this odd Facebook post that was made by Diane's daughter, Rachel. And it says, don't think I've seen mom so chilled out like this in a long time. And this was just a month after Shaun's death. And she's talking about how chilled out her mom is. You know, nobody really thought anything suspicious was going on until Sarah, Diane's eldest daughter, is now sick in the hospital with flu-like symptoms, and she's throwing up and she's dizzy, and it's very similar to what happened to her dad Mark and her brother Shaun. And now it's like, wait, what? Now the sister is about to die too? And Diane's on Facebook like, pray for my daughter, she's in the ICU. And this is when someone snitches. At the time, the caller wanted to remain anonymous, but now it's been years since this happened. Sorry if you can hear my dog barking. Now it's been years since this happened, and this anonymous person has come forward. It is their pastor.
We're jumping for Jesus.
And he said, listen, this is weird, okay?
I've never had 2 family members die in the same type of situations ever.
And then people were talking about how she didn't really show that much emotion. She didn't seem that upset. And there's the connecting the dots, like, is Diane killing people in her family? After that anonymous tip, cops show up at the hospital. Now, Sarah, she's still alive, but she's in critical condition. She's in the ICU, and Diane is there visiting her, posting about it on Facebook. And so the cops come and they talk to the hospital staff. And one of the nurses tells them that she believes that Diane is being inappropriate. The officer's like, what do you mean? She's like, I don't think she is behaving the way a mother should behave. She is making jokes. She is laughing with the staff. And she knows that her daughter is in life-threatening condition right now. Like, she could very well die. And she's cracking jokes. And she's talking about an upcoming vacation that she's about to take. She's going to Florida, and she says she's going on vacation no matter what happens to Sarah. And they think that's weird because it is weird. It's weird. The cops then talk to one of the doctors treating Sarah, and the doctor says, we've run a whole bunch of tests. We don't know what this is, but I suspect poisoning. But I still need to run some more tests because I don't know what it is, but something about this is off. In the meantime, while these tests are being run, they interview Diane, the mom, and the interview is unsettling.
Is it Stout?
Stouty.
Stouty? Okay.
And when Mark died, it was actually a relief.
He couldn't hardly talk and slurring words and things like that. So why not at that point why didn't you call an ambulance or bring him to the hospital at that point?
Because by then I hated his guts.
Hated his guts. Yeah. I understand.
I mean, I hated his guts.
Okay. And how much was his life insurance policy?
It was only $20,000.
$20,000.
To be honest, I don't know. He would throw things at me. He would throw things at the kids. And I guess I just had enough. Sarah's a difficult child to deal with. I've been kind of putting pressure on her to, you need to get out and get a job. Your college bills are coming due. I don't want to pay for them. You'd be better off if you'd kill yourself. I'm a horrible mother. Put it really short and sweet. I knew they were drinking antifreeze.
You knew, Diane, that they were drinking antifreeze because you were giving it to them.
And I didn't know what else to do. Both Shaun and Sarah would just basically, I don't know, trash the house. They would do whatever they wanted to do and never helped support or even contribute.
And then Shaun, how did stuff get started with Shaun?
Shaun would be interfering with whatever I would do to the point where he was getting into my work. And I would have to tell him, you need to leave, go to your room, go do something. And he would just, how can I explain this? He was almost to the point of inappropriate at times. I mean, to the point where he would walk into the bathroom if the door was shut. I mean, just really bizarre stuff. It's to the point where I just wish I could leave and walk out. And I should have. I should have just walked away.
What did Rachel say about all this?
She really hasn't said that much.
What's her involvement?
She doesn't know a thing. Other than her and Sarah don't get along that well, because Sarah used to beat her up. Sarah would beat me up.
So Rachel has zero knowledge whatsoever? Had you been giving any to her?
No.
What about Brianna?
No.
Why not those two?
Because I love them.
Again, my name's Detective McCamus, so if you think of something tonight or tomorrow morning that you think that you need to tell me about, you can ask them to speak with me and they'll get a hold of me at the gym, okay? Thank you for being so decent with me, Diane.
And so they go with this information to interview Rachel. her daughter. And the first cop that interviews her, he seems to, be like, listen, what do you think happened?
I know that I know your sister Sarah's in the hospital and they're trying to figure out, what's wrong with her. And from what I heard today, in the last couple of days, I guess her condition's improved quite a bit, and she's been moved, I think, to another room, and she's talking, I think, is that right now? And she's definitely better than she was a couple of days ago, obviously, and they're still trying to figure out what actually happened to her, what's wrong with her. And I know that your father passed. What all do you know about his death, as far as what did your mom tell you, or what was your knowledge of it?
Very sudden.
Just a very sudden death?
Yeah.
Kind of a surprise?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was like bam.
Did he work or anything?
He would try, but he wouldn't be able to keep it that long.
He couldn't keep a job very long.
He had a band.
So mom was pretty much the financial supporter in the house. What about your brother? I know he passed, was it last year?
Yeah.
Last
September? Sometime early fall.
So he's never moved out on his own at 26?
No, we were attempting to do an assisted living thing, but it never panned out.
What was wrong with him? Did he have some kind of physical disabilities? Or?
Autism. He had a seizure disorder thing.
Okay. Was your mom pretty much the caregiver for him then, I assume?
Yeah.
All the time? Okay.
I remember he was throwing up.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden...
Were you at home when he died that day?
Yeah.
So you were at home when Dad died, and at home whenever your brother died too. Okay. Well, that's a lot of sudden deaths in a short amount of time. So okay. So as far as Sarah goes, when did she come down sick? I mean, how long did she have? Was she throwing up or sick?
She was throwing up because the toilet's right across from my room.
She could hear it.
I could hear it, and it's like, "Are you okay in there?"
Because it sounds like their symptoms were a lot alike.
It was.
Did it seem strange to you? I mean, did you kind of wonder is it something like genetic, or did you just go, well, I don't really know. Yeah, it freaks you out, but didn't really.
I almost don't want to think on it. It's like,
it's hard
to. My next.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's hard to think about. Yeah. Is she working anywhere right now? Or?
No, she's been looking for something.
Looking very hard, or?
No.
Not really? She's pretty much been goofing off, you say then? Not really?
Oh, yeah. Because every time I'd go back in the room, she'd be on the computer, YouTube, and it's like, come on. At least go clean the litter box.
Yeah, something, yeah. But she's definitely rebounded, so.
I know.
She's looking a lot better. Yeah, so that's a good thing.
And then he's like, your mom said she did this, and Rachel's crying.
Your mom has admitted to killing your dad and your brother and trying to kill your sister with poison. I know it's hard to process and a hard thing to even think about, but she basically spelled out to us how she did this and the reasons for doing it. She had been giving your father small doses of antifreeze in his drinks over several day period. Same thing with your brother, and same thing with your sister Sarah. I know it's very difficult, and obviously we don't think that you or your sister had any knowledge, obviously, of that. Do you have any other family here in Springfield?
I have an uncle.
An uncle. Was your dad's brother, or?
No, my mom's brother.
Your mom's brother. He lives here in Springfield?
Okay. Though he's on vacation right now.
Oh, where's he at?
Pensacola, dang it.
Okay.
Well, the next day, they interview Rachel again. Things are different now because they found something at the family home. A diary. Rachel's diary.
Okay. What is that?
Little journal thing.
A journal thing? Whose journal?
Mine.
Your journal? And so you wrote this then, is what you're telling me? Okay. You remember writing this then, is what you're saying? Okay.
There was a dream that I had had. That they would die.
This journal entry was labeled, it looks like June 13th of 2011, almost 2 years ago. Because it says, it's sad when I realize how my father will pass on in the next 2 months, and how Shaun My brother will move on shortly after. Rachel, whose idea was this?
Mom brought it up, and we discussed.
So when she told you this, what did you say?
Other than it was disturbing and kind of creepy, don't know, I was quite uncomfortable with it,
Why did you guys want to kill them?
My dad, when he gets angry, he was very hard to deal with. He would throw things. He would be very unreasonable with the weirdest things. Like the fact that I wanted a job and he couldn't get one. I couldn't really see him ever, like, doing anything to help us. He was always just blowing money. He would... Shaun... I accepted that she wanted him gone, but I really didn't think he was necessary. And I really actually wasn't aware that she was getting Sarah. I knew about Shaun, I knew about Dad, but I didn't know she was going to go ahead with Sarah.
Did Sarah know what was going to happen to your dad and your brother?
Probably not.
Probably not.
No.
Or probably so. What did I say about let's be honest about everything and get it out on the table? Did Sarah know, yes or no?
Yes. It was mostly between Mom and I.
But Sarah knew.
But Sarah knew.
Okay. How often was Sarah involved in these conversations with you and your mother?
Oh, jeez. Maybe 2 or 3 times a month. I don't...
Okay.
Dad... was basically a drain on her, on us. He had no concept of money.
Mm-hmm.
Shaun, we argued on a lot, because I still think we could have put him in a assisted living, but she wanted him out. She would just go on and on about him just being a burden, basically. I mean, he did have some annoying quirks, but not enough for that.
Not enough to kill him?
No.
Did you and your mother discuss killing Sarah?
More or less that she wasn't going anywhere with her life, and that she was very adamant on that Sarah was just a burden, that Sarah needed to be taken care of.
What kind of searches did you do?
Death-related in general.
Death-related in general?
Specifically, I can't remember, but if you pull up the thing, I'll remember, because I can't remember specifically.
She would pour some of the drink out, and then she would put the antifreeze in the drink and then give it to your father?
Mm-hmm.
How often did you do that?
Once.
Only once? How many times did you do it, Rachel?
3, 4 times.
Where did she keep those drinks that were already mixed?
In the fridge.
How would you know not to drink them?
The top was open.
On what kind of stuff?
Like on Gatorade, the thing was already screwed open.
So that's how you and Sarah knew not to drink those?
Mm-hmm.
How often was she mixing the drinks?
Not as often as us. Maybe every other day.
So after he dies, what do you guys talk about at this point, or at that point?
After that, we were mainly discussing vacation.
Okay, and where was vacation?
Florida.
So why was it decided to kill Sarah?
Other than the fact that she basically lived in the back bedroom and didn't, have any gumption to get a job. Back in middle school, she would touch me. she still has really inappropriate jokes.
You're not talking in a sexual way, or are you?
She did for a time, because we did share a bed.
Okay.
She really had no purpose. I wasn't actually aware that Mom was giving her drinks until she started throwing up, and then I kind of got suspicious.
Okay.
Because Sarah was in on the whole unscrewed cap, so I'm thinking Mom was getting a hold of her already open drinks in her room.
Rachel, how many times did you give Sarah drinks that had antifreeze?
Not many.
How many is not many?
Like maybe 3.
And part of your deal out of this was that you were going to get your dad's car. What was Sarah going to get? Or what did Sarah get?
She got his old laptop, I think.
So you got a car and she got a laptop out of the deal?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be right back. Do you need anything? Anything more? Do you have water? Do you want something to eat or anything else? Are you okay with your water? Okay.
And then there's the part where he's like, you want some water or you want something? And I'm thinking, you want some root beer, some Gatorade, a little bit of antifreeze?
If you need anything, just yell and I'll come back in here. Okay? I'll be right back.
So how involved was Sarah if she knew about the poison? And then it's like, okay, well, they let Mark die and then they called 911. They did the same thing with Shaun, right? How come they took Sarah to the hospital? Why didn't they let her die? If you ask Diane, Diane says that, she changed her mind and felt horrible.
Why didn't you just leave her at home to die like the others?
I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it.
If you ask Rachel, Rachel said that she didn't, well, Rachel said some weird shit.
I didn't want another one to die in the house.
And why is that?
Houses are nasty after somebody's died in it.
So then the little sister, right, there's like a 11-year-old little girl. She ends up being taken away and put into foster care. Rachel's plea deal in exchange for testifying against her mom is to get second-degree murder instead of first degree. And then Diane, her mom, she ends up doing an Alford plea, which is basically saying there's enough evidence against me that I would be found guilty, but it's not exactly pleading guilty. Diane then goes on to say that she had post-traumatic stress disorder and she was overwhelmed. She didn't know what else to do. And they both end up getting pretty heavy sentences. Diane gets life. It doesn't go to trial because she pled, right? But her daughter Rachel, she ends up getting 42 years and she'll get parole after 42 years. So in her 60s, she might be a free woman. As for Sarah, the one who was poisoned and made a recovery, she ends up speaking.
She took away my lifestyle and livelihood and my independence.
At their hearings, and she tells them, I forgive you. She says, I'm not a victim, I'm a survivor, like you're not gonna take everything away from me. And later on though, she will do an interview where she seems really angry.
I want to strangle my mom because of what she did.
But then it's never mentioned how she was supposedly in on it too. Rachel apologizes at the hearing and she says, she's so grateful that her sister forgives her, that she's better than her. And then though, recently, Rachel and Diane come out and they recant and they want to vacate their pleas. They both have news stories now. Rachel, she says she has this insane fear of men and that because of her fear of men, she was denied due process. Let me explain. I want to read you some quotes. She said she's afraid of men and was intimidated by her attorneys as well as police investigators. Quote, when lawyers were appointed, my fear of men was not accommodated, leading to miscommunication, coercion, and mental duress. She said that being in an interview room alone with a male detective was like being flayed alive. She said that she wanted a psychological exam and she was denied one. She wasn't shown all the evidence in her case by her attorneys, and that her attorney was friends with one of the witnesses and they pressured her to make up details about the case. Let's talk about Rachel, because there is a girl who made a YouTube video. Okay, I'm going to link her channel below and I'm going to play you some clips of the video. In this video, she talks about how she knew Rachel. She went to school with Rachel. I want to show you some clips, some things that she said that might make you see Rachel in a different light.
Okay, so here's Rachel. This is the one that murdered her dad, brother, and tried to murder her sister. That's the girl I went to school with. You can see she's a little bit different. So this is Sarah. That would be the sister that they poisoned. She looks just like Rachel.
So the past couple days I've been thinking, like, I need to do this video on Rachel. I need to do it because eventually the story's going to come out and it's going to be big, and I want to have the information out there about Rachel because, like, there's not many people that know her. She was always kind of weird, like different. Like, you know how you get that, like, that vibe off of some people, like, ooh, she's a witch, or like, ooh, he's weird. So she didn't have many friends. I actually don't think she had any friends, and I was always nice to everybody. And we had classes together. We went to kindergarten through 10th grade together. So she was always wearing, like, older clothes, like old lady clothes that just didn't really fit a young person. They would think she was poor. She didn't have money. They would think she's like this church girl that doesn't want to do any wrong. People was always calling her a goody two-shoes and that she didn't want to get in trouble. Oh, she was always a teacher's pet. Everybody always called her teacher's pet because technically she was, but she was also so stinking smart. She was so smart, like, crazy smart, brilliant, intelligent. Everything she did perfectly. Like, she was terrified of failure. Every time she got in trouble, I do remember this because she would always make a big scene. Not on purpose, but she was just different. She would answer a question. If the teacher asked her a question, she would answer it, and it would be, it would almost always be right. But if it was wrong, she would cry. She would start to, like, shake and talk to herself. Dang it, I can't believe I missed that. I knew that. I practiced that all the time. Like, she would talk to herself like that. She would just do kind of like this thing and, like, bite her nails, and she was always, like, doing fidgeting all the time. Their hair was always oily, all of the whole family. It was like, it was oily hair, like, they never washed it. And no offense, like, if you don't have water, cool, whatever, you know, I understand, but it was always oily. But still, they acted, or she, Rachel, acted like she was better than everybody. And, you know, you ask her a question and she just kind of, like, you know, makes you feel like you're stupid or dumb.
Now, as for Diane recently did an interview with 2020, and she also changed her story.
Hello, Diane, I'm Deborah Roberts. Do you find yourself wondering how you wound up here?
Yes and no.
Were you worried about him when you went to church?
Not really. No hospitals, no doctors, no nothing, or, quote, I will kill you.
She was like, I was pressured that my husband had some connections to shady people and that his life had been threatened before, and they're the ones who told me to admit to the poisoning, and I had to do it or else they were going to kill me too. And it's like this whole story, and pretty much nobody believes her. Okay, but that's what she said, and she didn't seem remorseful at all. She had this weird smile the whole time, and it just made my skin crawl. Diane claims she got more information when she was in prison. She said, quote, Mark was with some people that are very dangerous. People have disappeared. I was told in jail that Mark had been green lighted. I'm saying somebody probably came in and gave him something. So Diane is claiming that there was a hit out on Mark from the shady people he was dealing with, and they killed him and made her take the fall. So those are the facts. Now I want to talk about the theories. So the main conspiracy theories here revolve around Sarah, her involvement in this. Sarah allegedly knew that they were going to poison and kill the dad, knew that it was going to happen, participated in it, gave him some of the drinks. He died. She didn't tell anyone. Same thing with Shaun. Then it was her turn. And it was only then that she kind of went against her mom and her sister. And she actually kind of didn't all the way, because at the sentencing hearing, she said how she forgave them. So was she trying to cover her part in it, and so she didn't go completely against them? Or is it true what they said? If the seal was cracked in the drinks, right, Sarah and Rachel knew that the drinks had antifreeze in them. And then it was like she knew to avoid the drinks that had antifreeze. I don't know what to make of that. I don't know what to make of that. It's very strange, you know, because if she's not seen as guilty and she was being pressured by her mom and, you know, just going along with it, wouldn't that same argument apply to Rachel? But Rachel had that diary entry and she seemed closer to her mom. I don't know, because I feel like nobody's talking about that. I've seen some videos about this case. I've watched the 2020 and all this stuff, and no one is talking about this element of it. And that to me was like a bombshell. If you want to know what I think that Sarah being poisoned kind of made her the victim, and maybe any role she may have played was negated by that, versus the fact that Rachel and Diane were not poisoned and were totally fine and healthy. It made them look like the perpetrators and the masterminds behind the whole thing. So I think that's the main difference there. What was the motive, right? Because in their minds, they had good reason to do this. It seems like she literally was so overwhelmed. I'm not justifying it. I'm explaining what I think her thought process was. She was so overwhelmed with the burden of all of them, because like 3 out of the 4 kids living in her home are in their 20s. One has autism and all these illnesses, and he can't live on his own. And assisted living facility is going to cost her money, so maybe it's cheaper to keep him with her, plus the time and energy of that. Then Sarah, she studied French and she couldn't really get a job with French in Missouri as her major. And so she was at home all the time. They say she's just watching YouTube, and her student loans were coming up. So that was going to be an added expense that the mom felt she was going to have to pay for, because her daughter didn't have a job and she was living with them. And then you have Mark, the father, who was cheating, according to her, drinking, smoking. He's trying to make the band thing happen, and it didn't seem like it was going to happen. And he's not paying bills, and he's, you know, she's having to make him food and pay for the bills and feed the kids and do this and all that. And in her mind, I don't know why she felt like she couldn't just kick them out. In her mind, it felt like, what? It's better to just kill them and have it look like an accident? Why? Because she didn't want to be divorced in front of the church. She wanted, I don't know. Well, I'm not rationalizing it, but a lot of the questions here are, what was the motive? Why did they do this? And in my opinion, I feel like this was Diane's motive. Now, what about Rachel, the sister? Why would she go along with this? Was she just happy to be the favorite? It seemed like she was mimicking what her mom said, like, he didn't contribute, he didn't help us, he didn't do anything, talking about the dad. He would drink a lot, he would throw things. Then she had said something crazy about Sarah touching her and hitting her. And then Shaun, she didn't want Shaun to die. She said, I felt like that could have been, like, it seems like Rachel, the daughter, didn't really want her siblings. She kind of went along with it because her mom did it. But it seems like she more wanted the dad gone. So, and then, you know, do you believe Diane's story about the hit and that? I don't know. I feel like she would have probably mentioned that before if that was really a thing. Like, maybe it took her all this time to come up with that story. She also seemed like she genuinely had issues with them. Like, she was upset with the burden that she felt they were all becoming. Those were things she talked about. It didn't seem like she didn't actually have grievances with them and she was taking the fall for someone. You know what I mean? But anyway, let me know what you guys think. Thank you so much for watching. Sorry if I'm all sniffly and stuffy, but I'm totally not feeling great right now. But I have to get this video up. And so I'm sorry, but thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye. Still don't know how to turn off my camera. Shit. It's a new camera. Do you guys like it? Can't turn.